Foundation. I'm your host for today. My name is Leonard Onyekachi, and then on my right hand side I'm having two beautiful ladies, and then on my left hand side I'm having two handsome men. So these are the prototypes, and I'm gonna have them introduce themselves one by one. So I'm going to start on my right, which is the first person, Blessed.
Greetings to every viewer. The WeCare Foundation Africa. Blessed Nakudo is my name, and I'm the founder of the WeCare Foundation Africa. Thank you.
Good day, everyone. My name is Gift. I'm a member of the WeCare Foundation.
Everyone, my name is this organization. I'm the secretary. It's good to have you back again.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Smart, and I'm a member of WeCare Foundation.
We're gonna move on to the next segment to discuss the issue of the day. So the topic of the day is my culture, my heritage.
We have to do is mostly we have to make sure we take it to the schools. We have to make sure we take African culture to communities. Probably participate in sports so that people can also feel African culture from sports and other activities and social activities.
Move on to the next one. Smart having said a lot of things now. He said we have to take the culture to the schools, and then we have to plant it in our kids when they're growing up so that they can live by it. And then he said a number of things, but then we're going to move on to Teto to just share some light on that for us. How can we preserve our culture and then our identities, and then the impact of culture and language in our current society now, and then also how is the media painting it to be? How can we make it more effective?
The media has painted a picture that culture is just your outside appearance, and there's more to culture than that. For example, people can guess what tribe or what culture I belong to by simply looking at this thing that I'm wearing here, and they could be wrong because they've painted it in such a way that people are believed to belong to a certain culture because of how they dress, which is true to a certain extent, but not entirely. So, the impact of culture and language. I believe that if schools introduce African languages as a compulsory, then a lot of children will do very well as compared to how they're performing now. There's a school in the Eastern Cape that taught their learners in Xhosa. Like they had a complete switch. They decided to teach their learners in their African language, in their native language. And for that year, every single one of them passed maths. So I believe that since we think in our native language and we dream in our native language, then we are bound to perform better, even in school, when we are taught through our native language. Be it life science, be it social science, whatever subject should be taught in our cultural languages, and that can be done. It's not impossible. So how can we then preserve culture? We acknowledge the fact that culture has been tempered with by industrialization. People are moving from places to modern areas for a better life, and they meet with people from different cultures because of that. So there's a huge culture shift. People are introduced to new cultures, and they forget who they are in a way. So we can fix that by reminding ourselves on a daily basis. The elders should be there to remind the children of how to dress, how to live, how to walk, how to talk to people, how to think, because culture does really affect everything about an individual.
A lot has been said about culture and its preservation, and as WeCare Foundation Africa, we want to see that African culture is promoted. Age, haven't mentioned language, haven't mentioned appearance, which includes clothing. Media is also very vital. Media is vital. Media in the past has been presenting Africa as an ugly place, Africa as ugly people, but that has to change. In the past, they never told us about the woman called Sarah Batman. She's an African woman. But recently, people from Europe want to look like Africans. They want you to have the big butts, the big breasts, but in the past they saw that as being ugly. So since media is now promoting Africa, the shape of Africa as being beautiful, media can also promote other parts of Africa, like the language, the dressing, and every other thing. Where are the folklores? Where are the myths? Where are the stories of Africans? This can be promoted through media. Also, media has made us to believe that white is beautiful. Media can also be used to tell people, to promote that black is beautiful. Why are people using bleaching creams? Media can also promote black to be beautiful. They used to say black is beautiful, but gone are the days, because media is saying white is beautiful. So media should also let the world know that black is beautiful. When Huntington Venice, a slave woman from Africa, was seen abroad, people thought she was ugly, but now the Westerners want to look like blacks. And in Africa, we should start letting our children know that black is beautiful. Policies should be made to teach children that Africa is beautiful. It should be taken to the crèche. The photos of these past heroes should be placed in all our schools, so that when they grow, they have this picture in their mind and they will not deviate from it. The African environment should also be promoted. The grain, back in the days, our forefathers, they fished, but now we don't even know such thing. Can we promote Africa by teaching youths how to farm? Teach youths how to fish? To see that Africa is promoted. We're talking about economic development, and we keep blaming the government for not providing us work, but we can do something. How did our forefathers survive? So media can also promote African beauty, the culture.
That's what I have for now.
No, thank you very much, Keith. We shouldn't lose track. Yeah, we all saying the same thing. At the end of the day, we're still trying to find ways that we can be able to preserve our culture in this 21st century that everything is moving on the fast lane. So I'm going to have Smart to also share some light on that, the impact of culture and language, culture and appearance, and then also the media painting of culture. Like, what do you think we can do to make this to be effective in a way that we can be able to transmit the message that we have to the people that are coming?
First of all, we have to promote our language, and then also we have to promote culture in terms of social, economic development. To bring it to communities, and then also to put it up on media, because most times when you hear about Africa these days, people usually paint Africa like a desert or a forest with animals and everything. That's the way they see Africa to other worlds. That is why when people talk about Africa, they talk about animals, because they feel Africa is not developed or under-civilized. But then when you come to Africa, you find out that Africa is a very beautiful continent, and the only thing we're not doing is we're not promoting our own culture, like our language. You find that African countries speak other people's languages, just like the Angolas, they speak Portuguese, and then you find that the South Africans speak English. And you don't see a Portuguese man being interviewed and he's speaking English. They always take on their languages, which is very important. Language is number one to promote African culture. And again, we should talk about also promoting African culture when it comes to in schools and academic level. To make children to understand that African culture is very important. They should put that under probably a curriculum for schools, and so that children will have a special study of their culture. And so I feel that is all for now. So we just have to make sure the media carries African culture the way they are supposed to carry it, because not just painting Africa like an animal kingdom. So we should make sure the media carries Africa the way it's supposed to be. At least they should show the beautiful heritage of Africa. They should show the falls, the waterfalls. They should show buildings. When you come to like Cape Town, it's a beautiful place. They should show Africa in a way that the world will understand that we are also a people that are living. So we need African to be relevant to the society. Thank you very much.
But the challenge we have is that haven't realized that technology has taken a vital part. The youth and children of nowadays have embraced technology and have forgotten that in spite of us having technology, they should also remember that they have a culture. So because we have technology should also help in promoting culture. It's a good thing we have technology. The same way our forefathers were dressing, we are behaving, can also be transmitted through technology. If we don't have the elderlies who are with us, we are not in the village to tell us how to behave as they taught our parents, we, the youth of nowadays, can still put the same information in technology via social medias. Any social media platform we can sell our culture. We should not depend on what the Eurocentric fits us. The African should also promote their own ideas. Remember, if you don't tell your story as an African, someone else is going to tell it, and it's not going to be told the way it is. So as Africans, we should start using the technology we have today to sell our culture so that the next generation will learn from it. It's good to send our children to English medium schools, but language is still very important. So we should promote our language via technology. We should promote the way we dress via technology, the kind of food we eat via technology. If you check back in the days, our forefathers weren't as sick as people of nowadays are because of the kind of food they were eating. So if we can use technology to say this is how you have to feed yourself, to promote diets, that is going to help us. So in the 21st century, we are saying that culture is still very much relevant, but we should have to tell the story, send a message, so that culture will be promoted. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Blessing. I think that was a mouthful. You said so much, and then I think we've been able to learn a lot from that speech that you just made. Just in summary now, we've been able to see the relevance of culture in the 21st century, because in as much as we still think that technology is coming and then a lot of things are happening now that are not like the way they used to happen before, the relevance of culture still stand vital, because now we need to make sure that we have our own thing that is our culture, that should be transmitted to the generation that is coming after us, so that they can be able to know that these are the kind of things that our parents did and the people who came before us did to survive and how they lived. So I think it's something that is we should tackle, so that the whole world can understand that, and then our generation that is coming would not be like bastards who don't know where they come from. So culture still plays a very good role. It's still of great relevance in our society today. It's just that we have to acknowledge that and promote it, because like she said also, in terms of dieting now, we've been fed about this information about we get diets from internet, and then we have different kind of foods that are not even from our own cultural foods. So they tell us that this is good, and then we just accept it and then forget that we had people who came before us, and then there's a way that they were living, and then the kind of food that they ate to keep them healthy. To say it also, people die easily these days now, but then people would live longer years, and then they were still healthy, even without the technology and everything that is on now. So I think we should just go back to the drawing board and then get to find ways to promote our cultures, our food, our language, our dress, our music, and everything that has to do with the African race. So culture is still of great relevance in our society today. I think we all agree on that. Culture is of great relevance, and what we're going to do is to try to preserve it, and then make sure that we promote it in every way that we can. So we're going to move on to the next one now. We're just going to have discussion on the impact of culture and language, and also we'll talk about culture and appearance, and then the media, how they paint culture to be. So we're just gonna have tons to talk about all of this in summary because of time, so we don't have to spend too much time on this. So what we're gonna be emphasizing on is the impact of culture and language, and culture and appearance, and also the media, how they're painting culture to be now. Because now we find that the media that is painting these cultures are not like the people who are really from our tribe. You understand? Like, we get people from Europe, from America, from Asian countries telling stories about African culture. So, but we're Africans, we're not telling our stories. So, we're just gonna have like tons to talk about how we can make sure that when we talk about African culture, we send the right information to the people out there so they can understand how our culture and heritage is like.
The impact of culture, thank you very much. The impact of culture on the language is that culture is a very good thing. It's a very good way that we should follow to be a better future producing life, a legacy, and all. So it builds our language. It makes our language to be how can I say? To be in a unique manner, so that everyone can, like most of the people can respect you through the way you talk to them. Because if you can listen, the language that is used in the streets nowadays, it's no longer, doesn't depict the culture, doesn't show how there's no any respectful way that they are used on the street. So we should forget about those ways that are used in the street, so that we can focus on respect and making sure that the way we communicate with others, it's in a respectful manner and showing a manner of a culture. So, and how the media is painting this culture. Okay, the culture, it's only respected from the media side. I only see the culture of things trending only during the cultural month, which is September. So during the course of the year, the 11 months, they are not talking anything about culture.
Yeah.
So, but from my point of view, I think it was supposed to be an everyday thing. We were supposed to live culture, eat culture, and make sure that our upcoming generation doesn't lose track of what culture is and how culture should be. They will live in line with what we do. Remember, whatever you're saying to a kid, kids are not doing this as we see. They're doing exactly what they say. Yes. Whatever you're doing, they are watching. They are watching and doing that. You might say, don't do this, and yes, they may not do that in the meantime. But if you are saying, don't do this, and you're doing it, yes, I think
Foundation Africa, still an infant foundation, but we will very soon is going to go places. UK Foundation Africa has talked on my culture, my heritage, and to show that we are really concerned about the African culture, we've decided to distribute seedlings to the youths in the community so that we'll teach them how to plant the seedlings and they will watch it grow, so that they will see that there is importance of culture. And also we are teaching the youth, the children, that at least once in every month, like we are wearing the cultural bit here, every month they should at least once wear something that symbolizes Africa. Also, at least once in a week they should eat an African meal. Very importantly also, in the schools, Africa courses that permeate things about Africa should be taught, which is very important. It should also start from the family. We have aunts, we have uncles. They know what they used to do back then. They should transmit the same information, and media will play a great role. As Africans, we are going to tell our story. We are not going to let others tell our story. From the insider's perspective, we are going to tell the story. Because if we let someone who doesn't know about Africa tell the story will not be complete, and Africa will be used as a commodity for colonization, and we don't want that. Enough is enough. As We Care Foundation Africa, we're gonna keep speaking the message, spreading the news until people know about African cultures. Our next event is that we're gonna be visiting schools and the elderly to empower them about how best they can be connected.